Now that it's officially been a full week since the release of Spider-Man 2, it's about time we look at this game objectively. To be completely honest, I was left disappointed with this game in a lot of ways, yet ecstatic in others. And this is coming from a guy who liked the first Spider-Man game but didn't love it. I had huge issues with the gameplay. So I'm gonna start off with the stuff I liked and then get into the stuff I didn't like or could be improved. First on the list of good is the web swinging. Not something I expected to be better, but it actually is. And it's mostly due to the swing assist feature. It essentially allows you to tune how easy or hard you want the web swinging to be. And it fixes a massive issue with the first game of the web swinging being so easy and boring to me. However, I feel it could be further improved. Since there's no incentive to lower the swing assist beyond just bragging rights, it feels kinda pointless. Like you're just worsening the experience for no reason basically. But regardless, this is a good start and definitely not something I expected to be talking about in the good section. Next up on the stuff I like is the combat. Again, another thing I did not expect to be on here. In the first game, I liked the combat, but I found it kind of boring due to it being so easy, similar to the web swinging. You could cheese like 90% of the combat encounters by just spamming gadgets. In Spider-Man 2, you've got 4 gadgets and 4 abilities. The combat here feels way more balanced, and believe it or not, it actually gets pretty challenging at parts. Especially the symbiote enemy type, they are way harder than anything in the first game. On top of that, there's way more enemy variety. There are no less than 10 different types in this game, and that's awesome. My only issue would be the gadgets they do choose feel kinda random. I would have at least put the web trip mine in there, but overall, the combat is surprisingly amazing here. But the thing that really cements this combat to me as absolutely amazing is the parry system. It's not perfect, the detection is a little bit off in my opinion, but overall it's a really great addition that I hope to see in Spider-Man 3. Next we got the boss fights, which are better by the alone fact that they're actually hard this time. They take skill, timing, and patience. I died on each of them at least 3 to 4 times playing on spectacular difficulty, other than the Sandman boss fight of course. That boss fight's a complete joke, but it's okay because it's the very first one of the whole game. My only issue is that they get quite repetitive. Pretty much all of them are just punch punch punch, dodge dodge dodge. I wish they incorporated a bit more variety into them. As much as I'll rag on Spider-Man PS4's boss fights, they are at least very unique from each other. Even playing as Venom, it's this exact same formula, and that was disappointing. Despite this, I really enjoyed all the boss fights in this game, especially the last one. So right there are 3 massive areas of concern I have that have been drastically improved. In this video, I'm mostly focusing on the big things that I like, but there are of course many other small things which I like too. If I were to list all the many quality of life changes made in this game, it would be probably well over an hour, so I won't be doing that, but note that they are very much appreciated. But next on the list of things I like is the performance. This game runs smooth as butter. Even if you're on fidelity mode or performance mode, you always have ray tracing, which is just insane to me. And is it even worth mentioning the fast travel at this point? Most people say they don't use it at all because the web swinging is so fun, but to me the web swinging isn't so fun to just forego the fast travel feature entirely. But it is so impressive that you somehow can teleport to a completely different side of the city in like 1 second. The PS5 is being pushed to its absolute limits, and I'm all for it. Now finally, for the list of big things I liked is the story. Now I do have some issues with the story, which I'll be talking about in the bad section, but for the most part I really enjoyed the story. The plot is very engaging, you really do care about what's happening, and it all ends quite nicely. It's not perfect by any means, but it's good enough, and I don't expect much from a video game story. Usually if the story is less good but puts me in more engaging and interesting environments, it's better for me. It's also worth mentioning that the pacing is much better here. A lot of the beginning parts of Spider-Man 1 were so boring just setting up side missions, but here it gets going a lot quicker, and while it still is a bit boring at the start, it gets good much quicker. Alright, now for the bad. Let's start off with an obvious one, the stealth. I'm pretty sure everyone knew the stealth was gonna suck going into this game. It sucked in the last game and they made minimal change, so it's still just as bad. I've made like 2 videos covering why the stealth system sucks in Insomniac Spider-Man, so you can go check out those if you want an in-depth analysis on why it's so bad. They added web lines, which are pretty cool, I'll admit, but when the foundation of the stealth design is so bad, honestly you could add anything and I just wouldn't care. And I'm pretty sure Insomniac didn't care either, because so many of the animations are just reused from the last game. There are maybe 1 or 2 new stealth animations they added for this game, and there's also way less stealth sections. Actually, there's 0 stealth sections where you have to be stealthy, it's just an option. I will say that the stealth can be fun in a weird kind of way when you're just trying to speed run through every room and just clear all the people out as fast as physically possible, but that's not where the fun should be in a stealth mechanic. It should be about being strategic and patient and waiting for people to be safe or unsafe and taking them down, not pressing one button to have the game tell you whether they're safe or not. It's just really bad. Honestly, the Mary Jane sections are closer to stealth than the actual stealth in this game, and that's not a good thing. Speaking of Mary Jane, I don't like her. Putting the awful redesign aside, her character is so much less interesting than in the first game. At the end of the last game, they went from maybe gonna date to moving in with each other, which felt very sudden. She just has way less to do with this game and is nowhere near as involved with the plot. And don't even talk to me about the chemistry, it's just non-existent. And then of course you get her gameplay sections, which are an improvement on the first game, but they're still not that great at all. I don't know why Insomniac are so obsessed with making MJ a playable character. Like, no one asked for this. And also, she is way too overpowered in this game, to the point of hilariosity. She massacres through like 20 to 30 enemies with a taser, and it really trivializes the enemies and makes them look so pathetic. In fact, she takes out these enemies so easily, she makes Spider-Man look pathetic. MJ is the real superhero here. But honestly, I'll take stupid gameplay over boring gameplay any day of the week. I don't really know what to call this next section, but I guess it's called long, boring walking sections. I don't like them. Thankfully, there isn't so much, especially towards the later half of the game. For me, you've got like a 30-minute window at the very beginning of the game where you can kind of use these if they're not too bad, but after that, I don't want to just be walking around. In the same game where I can be swinging around on buildings and punching bad guys, why would I want to just hold forward and walk as a normal person? Notice games like Arkham City and Arkham Asylum using these sections at the very beginning, and there's no issues, because once you get past that, you know you're full into proper gameplay for the rest of the experience. It's not so bad as some games, but I just wish they condensed a lot of these sequences into just really nice cutscenes. They provide 0 substance as gameplay, so there's just no reason for them to be gameplay. All these walking sections do is make repeat playthroughs absolute agony, and you're just dreading having to do them the whole time. Like, I'm sorry, this game's gameplay is way too fun to be reduced to this. It could of course be worse though, and I'm glad it isn't. Now this really hurts me to say, but my next criticism is the villains. Both Kraven and Venom. Starting with Kraven, his motivation is that he has some sickness that's going to kill him, and so he wants to die in a fight with someone superior to him, rather than in a sick bed. That's a really cool motivation, and there's a lot you can do with it. But unfortunately, they do pretty much nothing. What could have been a deeply emotional and complex character is reduced to just a plot device. Yeah, he kills Spider-Man's villains, that's pretty cool, but what else does he do that isn't just a way to push the symbiote storyline further? It also doesn't help that he's barely even in the game for the first 75%. He just sends his pathetic men after you. The same men that Mary Jane literally destroyed with ease. And they don't even try to remotely realize his sickness in the story. And it just leaves you with so many questions like, what is he infected with? Doesn't seem to really have any effects on him right now. Why is he so ruthless? What's the deal with his family? Where does he even come from exactly? How has he managed to form this mini militia in the jungle? I mean, heck, even TASM 2 Kraven had more depth than this. These are some of the questions that needed to be answered to make him a truly memorable villain. And while he is cool and he does have his awesome moments, ultimately his writing is just paper thin and there just isn't much to him. He's pretty much just a generic killer. He needed more screen time and more development to give his death the impact they were looking for. But I can at least say with Kraven, they were somewhat close to making him a good villain, They just didn't go anywhere near far enough. The same cannot be said for Venom, however. I just don't even know where to start. He is just an absolute mess. But before I get into that, I'll say the things I like about him. Visually, this is the best looking Venom we've ever got. He's massive, he's got big teeth, he's absolutely brutal. Everything about him, basically cinematically, I love. Tony Todd's voice as Venom is the voice of Venom. And while I did find his gameplay to be a bit too short, I really enjoyed it. Alright, now for the stuff I didn't like. This version of Venom is exactly what I feared with the announcement that there would be no Eddie Brock in this game. There have been very, very, very few versions of Venom that isn't Eddie Brock that have actually worked. Unfortunately, this is not one of those versions. To understand how this Harry Osborn Venom sucks, we need to look at the Eddie Brock version, also known as the true Venom. Eddie Brock gets screwed over hard by Peter Parker and grows a hatred for both him and Spider-Man. They cause his life to fall apart. Unbeknownst to him, they're actually the same person. So then when he merges with the symbiote, who also has an equal hatred for Peter Parker and Spider-Man, their combined anger is what creates Venom. The most important thing to note is that Eddie Brock hated Peter Parker and Spider-Man long before being infected with the symbiote. Because really, what the symbiote does is amplify your negative emotions, but you have to have those negative emotions in the first place for it to be able to do that. Now let's look at Harry Osborn's Venom. Peter's rude to him for like one scene and then refuses to give him the symbiote after he knows how dangerous it is. That's it, and from there he gets infected with the symbiote and tries to destroy the whole world. See the issue here? His motivations as Venom feel disconnected and far-fetched from what he was as Harry. He wanted to heal the environment, but now he wants to heal the environment by turning it all into symbiotes. I get that the symbiote is manipulating him, but this feels like such an astronomical stretch. What's really happening here is that the symbiote is in full control, like 95%. It's really just lazy writing. There is no world in which Harry would want to do this under any amount of symbiote influence. This element of his motivation feels so underdeveloped. Harry's turn to Venom needed to be set up over a longer period of time, not just 2 quick scenes and then loosely base it on this heal the world thing. It just feels rushed and lazy. And I really hate how much control the symbiote has. It's like the symbiote wants to destroy the world, and it's just using Harry as a host to be able to do that, when it should be the opposite way around. Harry should be the one using the symbiote to do what he wants. But I don't blame them for not doing that, because what would Harry want? He's a good person by all means. When he gets infected by the symbiote, he is a good person, he is a good guy, and then he becomes a bad guy. It's just so infuriating how they went about portraying one of the best villains in comic book history. Just make him bad the moment the symbiote touches him. Screw everything his character represented beforehand. It's why I kind of like the Spider-Man 3 version of Venom. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it at least understood that Eddie Brock and Venom's motivations needed to be in tandem. But in Spider-Man 2, Venom and Harry feel completely disconnected. They just went with the Ultimate Spider-Man version of Venom. No, not that Ultimate Spider-Man, the TV show, where the moment someone got infected with the symbiote, they immediately became bad. I mean, it's not quite like that, but it's pretty close. Alright, that's all I have to say about Venom. It's a shame too, because his boss fight was absolutely amazing, but his writing, not so much. Next up is the side missions. I really expected these to be better, since it was one of the only things people criticized about the first game. But sadly, they're pretty much the same. I do appreciate that they're a little bit less repetitive this time. There's not so much of just doing the same thing over and over like with the pigeons. But when I heard that the story was going to be 12 to 15 hours long, I was pretty confident that the side missions would be plentiful. Unfortunately, they were not. That's not to say that they're bad at all. The side mission involving Wraith and the Fire Cult people was really good, and maybe I'm wrong for expecting more, but that's how I feel. I will say that there was no single bad side mission in this game. All of them were at least decent. Now this is a big one. Lack of content. When you beat this game and 100% it, there is pretty much nothing you can do. As Miles Morales, you can replay the Mysteriums, but that's it. As Peter Parker, all you can do is just do random crimes that appear. You can't replay any of the side missions, there's no New Game Plus, there's no stealth missions, there's no arenas, there's no combat challenges, there's no races, there's just no content once you've beaten the game. And get this, you can't even change the time of day. What? We've been doing this for 10 years. I mean, it's bad enough that there still isn't a day and night cycle after people demanded for it so much, but now you can't even change whether you want it to be day or night? I'm sorry, even the biggest Insomniac shills, you cannot defend this. And this is really the stuff that holds Spider-Man back, because I can get over characters being very disappointing, or certain aspects of gameplay being a bit disappointing, but what I can't get over is just blatant downgrades from the first game. Yeah, they say they're gonna add New Game Plus and different features and updates, but that's how a live service game would go. That's how Activision or EA would do things. The game should be a finished product on launch, not after we buy it. And so on one hand, I really like this game and appreciate all the changes it made to combat and web swinging, but then on the other hand, it's straight up unfinished. So there it is, there are my thoughts on Spider-Man 2. It may seem like I'm being overly negative, but there's just a lot I like about this game, and it sucks that it's being held back by all this crap. As it stands for me, Spider-Man 2 is a 7.5 out of 10. And that's me being pretty generous considering all the lacking content. If the game wasn't unfinished, it would easily be an 8, 8.5 with all the amazing changes to combat and web swinging. Even still, I prefer it to Spider-Man 1, which I gave a 7 out of 10. But yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.